You are currently with the High Necromancer Catavix, and he has just heard that his wife has been slain, that the tower collapsed, that the city has crashed, and there were no survivors. He is mentally other. You can vaguely understand Brennick because you were stuck in there for minutes and are starting to recognize. I guess really you were kind of stuck in there for about an hour, and you can start to recognize what it might have been like to be inside of that gem for thousands of years. And that's kind of like what he's looking for. So we kind of ended things in a vague idea that his wife is his top thought here. And I'm curious what you all are doing. What are you telling Katavix as he starts to ask about his wife? Do you say anything about having already been to the enchantment tower and the fact that you all remember that the tower was collapsing around you and you just barely made it out alive? Um, do you What kind of things do you actually share with Katavix as these moments come about?
Was the Tower of Enchantment the one that we don't remember, or is that transmutation?
Exactly. Tower of Enchantment is where you guys were cloned by that ooze. Your memory of it is basically the tower collapsing around you.
Right, right. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Well, Brannick is still reeling a bit from his kind of latest experience, but he is hesitant to mention anything um, about that might upset the High Necromancer. So he's kind of staying quiet at this moment.
So theoretically, if nobody's actively going to try to stop him, essentially I think he kind of bargained with you all or assured you that if he's able to cast the spell, he'll be able to resume his own body and he would return Bremick to his. And that's kind of what we've just finished. You'll have those few moments, but if nobody's prepared to actively stop him, or if you're not actively following him, the news that the city has crashed is enough to get him to be leaving this place with all haste. I must find my wife. There's nothing more important to me. I thank you for the use of your body, and I'm sorry for what I might have caused you. I must go.
Prepare yourself. You'll be encountering quite a shock when you see the state of the city.
I feel like. Let me get an insight from you here, Fen. He kind of almost looks off into an obscure distance. Um, I would say for an elf, this might be the type of thing that you see in elves who start to fall or start to love the mortal races. And it's almost that 1,000-yard stare where you have this moment to warn him about the shock of what's happening, but there's also the sense that he's trying to almost remember the city, and all he sees before him is what he sees as lost. And that's the high evoker, no, the high enchantress, Avira. So as he's kind of just like looking off, he's just like blank to the world. And it's one of the hopeless states naturally kills elves. It's like the loss of one's personal will to live. His will to live is like outside of his personage. And you can kind of see like Katavix is in a very dangerous mental place. So offhand, is anybody going to ask him for the part of the arcane octad as he's leaving? He's starting to walk away from you.
Wait, before you go, you're trying to obtain entrance to the central spire, and um, hoping you can. Believe there's a some ritual that you may be able to assist us in until uh, some of the steps we're not familiar with. Perhaps as payment for borrowing my self.
Make a persuasion with advantage. Perhaps you will find yourself worthy enough to complete the octad. But weary should those be who try and fail. Seventh, draw a circle on the ground using the ashes of a corpse.
Rennick will nod. Thank you. We do not intend to fail. Thank you, and good luck in your search.
He's like saying it and he's already like running down the stairs kind of thing. Not like actively running, but he's heading down the stairs pretty much immediately.
Gotcha. Okay.
I would say that was about minimum to actually get it out of him. Um, and it's definitely the type of thing where he's not necessarily giving you much more of his time. He is headed on, as you all can assume, to the enchantment tower. That puts you all still up top in the necromancy tower. You've got a few other towers nearby. Do you all have thoughts where you are going to go next?
So Brannick's interested in kind of now that the High Necromancer has left, kind of just like searching the room, looking for any if there were any papers or anything that got left behind. Because he's definitely curious about whatever that he doesn't recognize doesn't really know the spells that this guy casts to kind of survive, but he kind of wants to if there's like a desk or a bookshelf or anything like that, you know.
I'd say roll. You can make your choice. Roll an investigation trying to think about what you saw as he searched through the room with your body. You could roll an insight to try to gain like a sense of his like actions when he had your body. Or more simply, you can actually like look around this place where you're ignoring the fact that he was using your body and you're just like looking for things as you would have always done so.
Yeah, I feel like he would have been a little too preoccupied with kind of like knowing what was on to really be like watching the guy too closely, but he might like kind of now that he has a little more time maybe kind of almost like
I mean, you're a divination wizard. If you're interested in that, you can definitely focus your mind and relive those moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so that's why I was thinking maybe like insight. That seems more like
Gotcha.
insight than investigations.
So if you roll good on the insight, this is much more like a big pass or a big fail. I'm gonna say with that one, you're gonna kind of just get like a bunch of searching. There's books and things that you can find scattered. Roll a d20 for me. Was that 8? Uh, so you can find a maybe like a treatise on the ritual use of the high mages in the ways that they can extend their life effectively, indefinitely. So this isn't like something that's necessarily going to get you closer to it. It's kind of like a secondary source talking about the primary source kind of thing.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. But maybe if once Brannick has some time to look at it closer, maybe it might give him some clues to where he could start looking for something like that, or like further areas of research. So,
Yeah, and I
um,
left off a key part of the actual note that I had too. Is it's preserving their brains inside jars. So like the primary source is basically the say like the first wizard who's starting to talk about the ability to do this, and this is like say like a student's um, kind of like response to being shown the ritual and kind of their like investigation kind of around it. So again, secondary source, but it's basically to effectively live forever. One of the ways is this brain in the jar kind of function.
okay, because Brannick actually found a similar book in the other spire. So that would probably so this will kind of like he'll start looking at it and this seems familiar, and then I'll just kind of give like a kind of like a grunt of annoyance and probably end up not taking it. Um, because yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not really sure which clues that I've given you guys already, but they're also not necessarily meant to be things that you can't find multiple sources of information on while you're going through here. So that's definitely part of it. Is you might have actually rolled that one in the past.
oh, yeah, and I'm sure like these sorts of mages would have some sort of magical way to make copies without actually having to physically scribe, like almost have like a magical printing press sort of thing.
Yeah, and again, part of what I'm kind of thinking of it here is this could be just as much somebody's um, like senior thesis on the actual work that the High Necromancer Catavix created and would share to necromancers of the 13th Order. So you kind of like get to this point where there's probably one of these that maybe like every student writes. That maybe their copies that they keep. So there's a lot of ways for, I think, finding these things, the actual culture of it might be very much different from what you expect. But it is almost like the type of thing where any of these wizards, even the students, would be incredibly powerful if magic still worked that way. The way magic functions now, um, this is basic like child level of magic that Brannick is now like able to kind of manipulate.
Right, gotcha. Uh, yeah, so Brannick will kind of return back to the others. I'd rather not stick around in case the High Necromancer finds his wife is dead and decides to well, who knows what he'll do. Perhaps we should be off.
Agreed.
Yeah, I just like this tower. And before we get going any further, Mara, I forgot. I need to roll for my level up.
Oh, did we actually do that with Brennick as well?
Yeah, I still need to re-roll the dice.
And can I get a check on what my rolled hit points are after I roll this thing?
All right, I think I would have you at 56 rolled hit points now.
56? Okay, yeah, because for some reason my D&D Beyond one switched, and I couldn't remember exactly what it was.
All right, so
Did you actually roll any of the hit dice for Galeria yet?
I think I did. Actually, I'm not sure if I wrote them all. You know what? Let me just redo it all right now. It's 68 and 40 is what I need to.
Like, what's it? Is it actually set at something right now?
My roll is set at 54 with that plus 8.
54. I had you at rolled hit points 46 with her. And then that would have been 9 to 10. I don't know. One of the easiest ways is to actually look at the average hit points and actually try to figure out how far away it is. 56 with Fen. Average hit points is 78. And what monks have a D8, so that's the weird thing, is that first level isn't necessarily, it's always maxed for their average. But like eventually you should level up enough that you're hanging out right by that average.
Oh, I am. Her average is 112.
Yeah, so 46, 54 would not be correct if the average should be 112. But does that take into consideration your constitution? That might already take in the con. So you would be fine because you're pretty close to that. 6 below it isn't necessarily crazy. Looks like Don's 8 above his max with his. Yeah, so maybe 56 I think sounds right for Don. You guys should basically be pretty close to uh, the average hit points. If that's fine, that's the biggest thing that I'm worried about.
Yeah, because like it says her constitution is a plus 40, and then I took the tough feat for plus 20.
Yeah, I had you at 46 before, so I would think you should be at 54 right now with Galeria.
I
And then what's that put you at, Brannick? That's
So
a
actually,
really bad reroll.
Funnily enough, that actually puts me at exactly what I was before the.
Yeah, and that was, I don't even remember how many hit dice we made you sacrifice for Jazan.
I think it was like ended up being like 10% or 20% or something. Yeah, I think it's.
But like, what is that? 4 3s and a 2. You have 3 rolls that went above average. 4 rolls because that 7 is a part of it. That's horrible.
Yeah, and then I get one more D6 if we're level up to level 10 now. I'm going to go with Wizard again.
Yeah, I don't even really remember. So theoretically, yes. I've got level 9 here. I feel like you guys, I don't know. Are we sure we weren't leveling 2-9?
So we're 9 now.
Yeah, I could just be behind. So.
But if we're going to stay level 9, that's fine. I'll just remove that last.
I don't really care. Like the challenges are going to be there. So are we correct then? What's your rolled hit point? Do you know offhand, Brennick?
So that brings me to 37 now. Because that
Dear
last
Lord.
D6.
Okay, that was exactly the same.
Another below average. Yeah. So it was 62 before, and then 62 after, and then +2, and then the con. So 67.
I mean, I think wizards should live in that world. But I also think wizards should be the person who's dying the most often. Because you should only ever get one wizard out of like 90 characters to actually get high levels. Because they're the ones who basically become the big bads. Then we got Fen is at 56 rolled hit points. And then 54 for Galeria.
Yep. Quick question. You said we're supposed to be level 9 right now. We're not leveling up to level 10.
I feel like it could have been anything. You were at level 10. Fen was at level 10.
Oh no, I only
Justin?
jumped. You posted it this week on the board.
Oh, that's
Level up,
even better that I can actually read it.
yeah, level up to 10 this week. That's why I thought I went from 9 to 10 today.
Oh, no, that's legit. Yeah, okay. No, all I was saying is like in my actual little notes, I was surprised because usually I put like an extra level next to the rolled hit points to tell me like, hey, you should level them up. And when you do, fill this out. And I didn't. That was the point. But yeah, we are good to go there. You guys can get those things all kind of like worked out here. You have the robes, you have the play. You can return to the illusion tower. Um, you need a trophy for the evocation tower. You have not gone to the transmutation, and you still need to work out the divination and abjuration as well. You have not gone to. What are you all thinking here?
Question: when we level up, do we go back to max hit points, or if not, I need a rest or a short rest or something?
You would at least have the opportunity to short rest while Brennick was in the gem. So I would say you can definitely grab that. Feel like I was rolling in random encounters. But I still have Kithorn the 22nd at 3 p.m. That might actually be the old time. I think I actually described that you guys were getting late in your day. So I think the question then might be, do you guys want to rest? Do you want to go to the Conjuration Tower and grab a rest there? Perhaps the question is where would you all like to rest? Yeah, so Kithorn 22nd with 3 p.m. was the start of that day. You had gotten the robes, you had gotten. Yeah, I'd say you guys are pretty easily in the time where you know you've got to sleep.
Gloria doesn't mind either way as long as we get some rest soon. We could always just go ahead and catch rest here since we know no one else is here at the moment.
You still have the crazy brain in the vat down below you.
Yeah, I don't. Not in the necromancy tower, please.
All of the hands like in the wallpaper is still like following you guys around, and you just have this like odd sense that they can't see you, but they definitely can sense you.
Brandon,
Yes,
how
this
many
is.
people can you snatch with that dimension door? Just one or two?
Well, I mean, we can deal with the hands again if we have to.
All right, so where should we head to?
I vote for the
Right.
place with the beds.
Let me have you all just roll a couple of d12s. First two of you who roll, please. A d12. So you guys can head from the necromancy towers past the arcane, like gymnasium almost. That's where it's just kind of like the grade school students kind of thing, off to the conjuration tower. When you get there, the doors are locked. Oh, I actually have to bring this back up. You guys only got in there last time because of Elixis.
Oh shit! Wait, and that's crazy. I don't remember why Balixis was able to get in there.
Does anybody have any thoughts about how to get past these locks?
One second.
I could try picking them.
Something tells me mundane actions are unlikely to be successful here.
Never mind. I can't.
I was going to say, I feel like part of the thing this group's ignored entirely was that you also don't have anybody who can actually use thieves' tools.
Braddock actually can if we find any, but he doesn't actually have any on him.
At this point, regardless, there's been multiple points where you guys have been in places where you can collect up pretty much all of the tool sets. I don't think the thieves' tools needs to be terribly complicated to say that you would be able to at least piece together a set.
Okay, I mean he's not super skilled with them, but he is knowledgeable enough that he can use them.
If you can find me like some scraps of metal, I can maybe like quickly craft you some makeshift tools. I mean, they might not be as good as like great tools, but they should suffice a little bit if you want to try that.
Well, as I said, given everything we've learned of this place, I don't imagine they leave their tower. That it could be simply the locks would simply be picked by mundane thief.
True, but you're not a mundane thief. You're a magical one.
So let me get perception checks from you all here. So walking up to this door, you guys are approaching, and Fen and Brennick, the two of you hear that it's right around when you get 2 or 3 steps away from the door that the door is locking. If you walk away, you hear the door unlock.
Galeria walks up to the door. Uh,
It'll
Finn.
lock. Continue. I just wanted to make sure that you were recognizing at this point. When you approach it, it locks.
Okay, so she backs away, assuming it's unlocking again. Um,
So hold up, though. They're the two who notice this. Let me see if they react to it first. Because you rolled a 7, you shouldn't be then noticing it right away. So let me give them the chance to react. If they don't at first, then you can have your go.
oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Do either of you have an idea?
I guess Sven would stop in his tracks when he realizes what's going on and back away till it unlocks again, or at least to the space where I think that happens.
Yeah,
And
you're about like 5 or so feet away from it. Little bit over like the length of your arms kind of reach kind of situation. You can back everybody else away, and you'll hear about this little distance of click as the door unlocks.
seems your suspicions are correct, Brannick. Was definitely going to need a arcane solution.
How did Alexis decide the last time? Remember?
You could roll an intelligence here. Without like seeing the roll, you at very least know there was a point where Valixis had you all walk away, and she just seemed to walk through the door. Each time you try to replicate it with any of the group right now, the door locks.
Seems there was something about our little kobold friend that bypass this fences are, but life of me, I can't recall or think of what it might be. Hopefully not something she was carrying, because given what finally happened to her, we won't be able to recover it.
So, last chance for if either of you have an idea, go for it. Otherwise, Galeria, give them a moment, and then you can go over your idea.
Yeah, Brannick, I have nothing.
Yeah, nothing here either.
So, what were you thinking, Galeria?
Gloria is actually going to walk up to the door and kind of just wrap some rope around one of the handles since it's locked. And what she's doing is she's going to walk away from the door while holding the rope until she hears it unlock, and she's going to pull the rope to open the door.
Roll a d6 for me. Walk away from the door. You hear as it clicks, unlocks. Pull on the rope. Door opens.
Sweet, that worked. So I feel we should probably tie this around something. So she just looks around for like something that could be sturdy enough to hold the door open. She ties the rope around it, or like maybe a large stone, and make sure make sure she gets a knot that's nice and tight. Shall we proceed?
Why do you think this worked? I would rather if we figure out the door, and then we shut this door and have it protecting us, than to leave it open, because we do not understand it.
For now, Valyria, perhaps hold the door open. Myself or Fen could approach and just make sure that it's not going to slam shut when we get close again.
Yeah, like once the door is open, you guys can all walk in if you would like.
Okay, do you want me to just stand here and wait while y'all to see if the door's clammed shut, or while y'all approach it?
Oh, I don't know if you heard me. The door, it's not fighting against you. Once the door is open, you guys can approach. You can
Yes.
enter.
So I guess once Brannick got within like the same time that it locked before, and then nothing happens, he would be like, okay, it seems like it's like your idea worked there, Galeria. But agree with Valine. Perhaps we should put it behind us once we're inside. Anything from the outside chasing in after us.
Yeah, that would suck. Okay, so everybody heads inside. Once everybody's inside, Gloria is going to undo the rope on the door and let it close behind her.
Valine is not going to let the door close. You did not listen to me. I am not ready to leave this door. We should understand it, and then make our decision. I do not feel comfortable with it open, but I also do not feel comfortable closing it until we know. And she's going to ask you all to leave the tower. We know how to get in. We should figure out this door before we walk inside.
Okay. I guess that makes sense, considering there was an opening for us.
So she's going to pose you the question again. Why do you think the door opened When Galeria used the rope, what was your thinking in using the rope?
That it's not detecting us near it anymore. Like it doesn't. Oh shit!
It's genius. Please, everyone, leave the tower. Does everybody leave the tower?
I leave the tower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When everybody gets away, Valine will close the door. She'll walk about that 5-10 feet away. She's going to cast Mage Hand, opens the door. You guys can enter in the tower. She'll bring everybody inside, let the door close. From about 5-10 feet away, she's going to cast Mage Hand, opens the door. Excellent. You were quite right that we had to be away from the door. The door knows that we are too big to enter. Perhaps Velixis was small enough. And she'll actually look up to her owl. I know I have its name right here, and I don't see it. But she's going to like wave her owl off towards the door, and it's going to fly up, pushes on the door, and the door opens. Now we can go further. And she's going to start looking around this room for the first time. There's interesting things. You see there's a stark, empty, large dining room table that can seat about 6 or 8 people. There's a small cage that currently has an owl in it. There's a couple of couches, couple of settees, places to sit, and the same like kind of beautiful sparkling chest that sits in the corner. What sort of thoughts do you all have as you return to the Tower of Conjuration?
Last time we came here, there was a.
I can barely hear you.
Yeah, I heard last time we came here there was and then it kind of like faded out.
The meal waiting for us, I believe, on the table, right? But do you guys hear me better now, or?
It faded a bit, but I caught everything there. That there was a meal waiting for you.
Okay, I don't know. What's weird? But I think Brannick will try to explain to Valine how the deal with the animal in the cage and kind of how we got through this other door last time.
Oh, that's a perfect person to use one of the other pendants of the thoughts there. The Detect Thoughts amulet. So, I think you guys recognize then how to get past this. Do you remember how you passed it last time? One person goes into the next room.
Yeah, we had to have one person on the next room who would be touching the symbols like that corresponded to the shape that the animal was in on the other side, but you had to have somebody essentially be able to communicate without seeing each other or hearing each other because you couldn't speak or you couldn't hear if somebody actually spoke. They essentially had to communicate telepathically to be able to know what to press.
Excellent. So you guys can send one person through who's basically using Detect Thoughts on the person who's looking at the animal in the cage and pass on through to the next room. You would once again see that same demon creature. Looks kind of like an insect, kind of white, scaly flesh stuck inside of that circle. It might sneer at you guys. It might try to convince you guys that you're shit and you should just give up on your quests. But realistically, you guys at this point know that essentially building for your insecurity is about the only thing that it has, is to try to use that against you.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe we would have kind of warned Valine like about, yeah, there's a demon on the other side. Just don't, or not to listen to it. Let it get into your head. Told us we'd never get out of this place, but first time, but clearly we did. And I believe there were stairs that were leading up. Or no, we had to pass through into another room first, and then.
Yeah, effectively, this is where if you head straight through, once you've kind of set up the other side, when you kind of walk through, you end up, instead of coming back into this room through that same doorway, you start to walk up into the kind of like openness of this odd area where effectively you'll have servants kind of at your beck and call. You guys can basically find your own rooms. If you are going to rest, you can go and find a place to sleep. If you need a place to work out, you can go find a place to work out. It's one of those things where essentially, when you have one of these helpers at your side, it's kind of like, I really need a room to, I'd like to meditate in a grove of trees as I take my rest. And they'll take Fen to an actual grove of trees where you can be within the forest again. So it's one of those things where realistically, when you guys arrive, you've got like a butler there waiting for you, but they as well are basically asking you, where would you like us to take you this evening? Do you require medicine? Do you require a place to sleep? Do you sleep in a coffin? Or would you like to sleep in a hammock?
I would prefer. I prefer a hammock right now. Just give me some sleep.
Yeah, so when you guys ask them, they'll take you to a place with that thing, and it's essentially what you are describing. You guys are finding.
Is this sorry, are we taking a short rest now, or is this actually at a point where we consider calling it for the night? Sorry, I forget exactly what time it was of the day.
Yeah, effectively, this is nighttime. This is, you guys are coming here to long rest.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't think there's any reason that you guys couldn't come to a place like this to short rest. But I would say on some level, if you put the effort in to make it to this place, you might as well long rest. In the time it took to get you guys there and the long rest from the top of my head, I've got the map on. I deleted this one thinking I don't really need you guys to be able to see it again. So yeah, you guys can all enjoy a long rest here. The food inside of that place is not like especially tasty, but it does satisfy you, so there's no need for any rations for either your dinner or for your breakfast. You guys can enjoy whatever time that you need of that 8 hours to rest. You all can take the rest as you kind of come around to the other side. Is there anything else you all would do before you leave the Conjuration Tower once again?
Brannick is ready to go because ever since Fen kind of reminded them that we kind of these weird changes don't seem to be stopping. Um, there's a bit of a clock on. And speaking of, I guess, or
On some level, it's going to happen when you guys leave this place. But if nobody actually has anything that you'd like to do before you leave, the first thing we're going to do is Constitution saving throws for everyone.
Yeah, so I don't know if either Lyria or Fen had anything else to do in the tower.
No, I was just for the long rest.
Yeah, we got the unless we haven't
Panic.
gotten a step from here.
Panic really does not want to happen.
God damn it, Brandon.
Been rolling like crap today so far, but
Yeah, but every time we do the Constitution saving throw for the changes to the body, you're like, nah, fuck that.
I think Brennick's actually been 3 or 4 nat 20s for it as well. Like, it's been especially, like, crit save levels of he's passed it. All right, and then for your sidekicks as well, guys, I need a d20 from each of you. Do you have a name for yours right now, Rashad?
I thought about actually having Valeria send a letter off to Felix's sister.
Hold up. You're not like contacting anybody here. There's going to be somebody who arrives. This is far more random. Like, get away from that train of your people. These are going to be like other adventurers who are randomly here, and they're just going to join up as your sidekick. It doesn't have to be a relative of yours. You're not sending off for somebody. It's somebody who's going to arrive right now.
Well, no, I don't really have
It's
any.
far more for you to have backup than any of it needs to narratively make sense. In the long run, you can write in like this person became an adventurer because they missed Galeria and Velixis, and they hope to one day cross their paths. And you started that 5 years ago, and today you're walking into the place. You can write something like that, but you're not sending off for him. So just at some point, once you get a name, but I still need you to roll for them right away. So yeah, Fen, that's another pass. Brenix is going to be a pass. Maybe that should. Ooh, that's a tough one. Alrighty. So Galeria is going to have her eyes are nearly connected in that basically there's no longer the bridge between your eyes for your nose. It's kind of that point where your eyelids are starting to seem to be connected, and you're starting to question whether there's 2 eyelids or a single like central figure 8 eye. Feline is waking up with a single cyclopean eye. Both of you rolled the same. I think I've got to do the -5 at this level where both of them are going to start to feel the psychological effects of this. But it cascades really fast from that point. But I didn't actually think this part through yet to know when I thought. But you guys have completed the physical part of it. They're more infected. Yeah, I think that solves it for me. Their DC gets higher for both Ged and Dorian, and this is going to be where they're going to start losing their minds on some very real levels. This is going to be kind of evident in moments where they almost go catatonic, and you're going to start to feel different parts of the party will start to feel these people starting to like nose around in your brain. And by the time you kind of notice that it's Ged this time or Dorian, you can kind of like psychically yell to them or simply yell to them, and it snaps them out of it, and you immediately feel their presence leave your brain. But the two of them are going to start to fall into this, and you also can then recognize that Valine is on the same level, where she's going to start to psychologically turn into a. I can't think of the name of it real quick.
Nothic.
Yeah, the Nothic, like these other creatures. So Ged and Dorian will fail that.
17's a fail.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like once they start to feel the actual like
Okay.
start of this,
The
you get a
DC went up.
-5.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually decide yet where it's going to sit, but I feel like with the physical manifestation being 3 levels before the psychological, I think it kind of makes sense to bump that to once they hit the physical.
Yeah, I got it. I just misunderstood.
So there's still otherwise like useful as sidekicks. Those two are just basically like they're starting to fall over. You can recognize Valine will be next. And then Fen and Galeria are both at that point where they're like losing that central connection of their nose that kind of makes you a little bit more humanoid. Like Valine already looks very much like a Nothic. Ged and Dorian are almost entirely. Uh, Besides that, they're still like wearing their clothing. You're getting these sensations where like physically there's very little humanoid left about them. Um, and then Rashad, when you create your sidekick, they basically just have their eyes really close together, like they've got a small nose. And of course, Brennick is immune to the blight. So, waking up, a little bit more pressure on you all. What kind of thoughts do you all have from within the Tower of Conjuration?
We have the costumes now, so we can. We should try and put on this play and do that, or head to the stadium, see if we can't recover that trophy.
That might be a good idea. We should try to get going as quickly as possible. I don't want to. I don't want to just. I don't want to end up something or someone else.
Yeah, I'd say the only order of business that we have today is putting a stop to whatever is going on.
There should be do the play first.
You know what? I do think on some level the type of thing you guys should have pushed on Galeria last night before taking your long rest is any thoughts on the type of spells that maybe Galeria should prepare today? Do you guys want to try anything to see if you can kind of fight this with any spells?
So Brennick has one that he's kind of just had like a breakthrough on that uh, may be able to help, but there's a risk, significant risk, if the spell goes awry. But essentially, he's going to say he can maybe able to kind of send out his mind and try to make contact with perhaps some thing that perhaps could tell us if there's any way to protect ourselves or even reverse these effects.
So did you prepare that? Did you want to try it?
It is actually a ritual spell, so you just need to have enough time to ritually cast it.
All right. You said it's risky. Did you want to try it?
Well, if unless Galeria has um uh possible other ideas, if not, then Brannick is willing to try it. Um, but perhaps we should. He might suggest that we maybe we try and kind of continue on our day a bit and not do it straight away. Like maybe we can find some other way or find something else before he takes this risk.
Uh, Delirious that she's searching through her knowledge. She has things that can give us like an increased advantage on our savings. But I'm just now, what I actually forgot about just before that happened. But aside from that, not seeing anything else.
What are you thinking about?
Like I have things like guidance and bless that basically give us we'll roll a d4 and we can add that to the saving.
Yeah. We're talking about an infection that you guys are dealing with constantly. This isn't necessarily something that you can bless yourself through or guidance yourself through. You can't cast spells 24/7, 365.
And just out of curiosity, this is not a disease, correct?
Why do you think it isn't a disease?
Well, um, it's not that. It's just that with level 10 and is now immune to poison and disease.
Ben, you look entirely elvish.
Okay. Well, I think that's your problem there. We need some kind of remove disease.
Can you think of anything that a cleric can do that can remove disease? Roll a wisdom check for me, Velixis. Or Galeria.
All right. Sorry, I was actually going through her stuff and looking at it. You said wisdom.
Indeed. Is that diamond soul for you now, Fen?
Correct.
Oh yeah, you're extra hard to kill now because you get the bonus to your death saving throw. Wait, that might be level 14. All right. Yeah, you guys understand it's a disease. I'm not going to tell Rashad what the spell is, but when you figure out the spell, on some level, you'll know then. So, what thoughts have you as you all start to leave the tower? You're basically seeing signs that Fen is getting healthier, looks much more elvish than he did the night before when you were starting to see signs that his eyes were starting to converge. Valine, again, looks almost entirely like a Nothic. Both Ged and Dorian are starting to lose their actual minds. Galeria has the same symptoms where her nose is kind of like dropped down on her face and she's starting to like look more and more pug-nosed as her eyes combine into a single socket. What kind of thoughts do we all have?
And you know what happened? I'm glad to see you looking yourself again, but clearly it's not working for the others.
I feel like this would be the type of thing, maybe Fen, in your actual meditations, you kind of could like focus on your key and kind of see where the weave in this place was almost like sliding into and like almost bumping your key, and you can kind of see as these like parts of your energy flow are affected by the flow of Ythryn, and there's something here in the city that is creating a very otherworldly thickness in the weave. And you know as well as anybody else, not just wizards tap into the weave. Everybody's soul is touched by this. It's the core of your being. And the magic of this place is altering that. And during your meditation last night, you could focus yourself. And you spent that time realigning things. And I think for what it's worth, you're immune to disease, yes, but maybe you also recognize as long as you stay here, you have to actively spend your meditation time curing these little bits of disease that sink into your ki, and you have to like readjust it almost like a chiropractor. So it's not like a immediate thing, but then you already look more normal, and you probably wouldn't have even been prepared to recognize that, except for that others might have seen it in you. I'm not sure how often you would see a mirror or a reflection here to know, but
No, but I think you're right in the fact that instinctually he would recognize an absence where there was the thickness before.
yeah, so you like have that memory of like fixing yourself. And I think that's where you guys can recognize that this is, for all intents and purposes, a disease. It's just a disease like in the weave. Effectively, this is a cancer. It's a disease in your DNA.
Right, the whole place is cancerous to us.
Wonder if there's must be a source. We could find that, and perhaps it's too dispersed already. But in any event, we should hurry. Valeria, perhaps you can ruminate on whether there might be anything you can do for the others at some point. But in the meantime, perhaps we should continue on.
Yeah, I will continue to search through my knowledge, see what I can find. Um, it's so much easier if this is just a curse. I could just take the time to remove the curse, but if it's a disease, I can't seem to find that information that I need for this.
You guys could potentially go to the library and try to find some information on that. You are next to that with Conjuration Tower, and that becomes a question of, do you want to adjust your priorities and try to focus on finding this cure?
Now that we know it can be cured, I think that would be a worthwhile to see if we can find some information.
That might be a good idea. Oh, it shouldn't take too long. But they mean, hopefully. Should we go ahead and head towards the library at this point?
I think so. I'm not sure. Aline and Dorian and they may not have too much time left.
Yeah, I worry for their sakes. We need to rectify this immediately.
Let me get D20s from you all. So you all can head back into this library. You've kind of gone through this area previously. I don't see their miniatures. I know I've got them somewhere, but I don't have them here. Eventually you guys will come across the two creatures that are still going through this place. You would probably hear them pretty quickly upon entering the place. There's no reason to say they are immediately in your vicinity when you enter, but going into the library, you can basically try to go after those two again if you wanted to see either that fox-like creature or the penguin-like creature that was begging for help. You could go and look for them again. You can audibly hear them, or you can simply dive into the actual search for, does everybody want to help? Try to find kind of like anything on this. You've got like the disease itself. You could search for something in relation to the actual like offsetting of the weave, something that might have actually damaged the weave. You can search for things like anything that's been new in the city. There's a lot of different ways. How would you like to search the library?
Well, so Brannick is going to, as we're kind of coming, he's going to cast comprehend languages so that he can, and he has it prepared now. So he's just going to cast it so he can hopefully be able to help read any sort of books.
Gotcha. So theoretically, when you actually are ready to look at something, you can cast it then and have the full hour. You don't have to necessarily use it until you're ready to search something.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but I think Brannick would probably focus his search on looking for anything that discusses like any sort of these like magical transformations, and then hope that might lead to information about stopping it or reversing it.
All right. Do an Arcana check for me. And what are Fen or Galeria doing? What do we got? Goblin, Draconic, and Dwarvish, Elvish. So on some level, the two of you are kind of limited to understanding the actual like text more than like the meaning of words, kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I'll help Brannick as best I can, but I don't think I'm much help.
So I think you're able enough to track that transmutative diseases are perhaps almost like utilized as kind of like potential biological weapons. That it's not like entirely unforeseen that things can happen that start to change you. You'll see some things along the lines of like kind of like referencing things that are a little bit more immediate, like polymorph, a little bit more permanent, like true polymorph. And you kind of come across like the true polymorph needs a wish spell to end it. Things like that that kind of tell you some of the greater risks. And a lot of what you find seems to kind of relate to these things. But you find kind of like one little passage that's almost like just kind of spoken of in passing that will basically say, like, oh, and if it's something silly, you can just go find a local cleric and pay them a copper piece to cast Lesser Restoration on you. But the spell you're looking for, Rashad, is Lesser Restoration.
Yeah, so Brannick will almost like miss it on his first read through because he's but he did have some sense that, like, I think you said he had gotten some sense that this might not be entirely arcane in nature, and so when he kind of rereads it again, he's like gonna get like kind of almost like stand up really quickly and like shout for Galeria, um, maybe even when she's like standing right behind him or something. Like, he just like doesn't kind of he just like kind of almost like that eureka moment, um, and go like kind of like go to like excitedly point it out, but then realize she probably can't read it, and then kind of like essentially read it aloud to her. And then like, is this anything you familiar with? You might know.
Yeah, and I could, and I could, yeah, I'm aware of lesser restoration. I just know because of the name, I didn't think much of it. I wasn't actually paying too much attention to that. But yes, I do know lesser restoration.
So at some point, Valine will kind of look to you. If it was silly enough that you overlooked, you didn't perhaps feel silly this morning when you were praying to have use of it today? I like those. Low
Yeah, those
enough
are
to
better than what.
fail, high enough to succeed.
Yeah, better than some of the other ones I've been getting lately.
The like 10 and 11 is one of the worst to get. You're just like, I couldn't accidentally fail or succeed with any of those.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, uh, about that. Uh, no, I don't have use of it today. I'm sorry.
At least we know what you'll need for the future. So perhaps make sure you do. Perhaps pray a bit harder tonight, or I don't know how it works with you clerics, but
Gloria just kind of looks away in shame, in complete shame.
and then like Brannick is racking his mind too. We haven't passed by any buildings that look like they might be actual like religious temples that he recalls. Um, he's thinking if
Make a intelligence check. And yeah, Fen stepped away, but the two of you can make it. Galeria. What are you thinking when you ask for a temple? Like, what are you actually looking for? Are you hoping to find a living cleric?
no, so Brannick is thinking maybe, you know, just there might be by some off chance, perhaps a scroll or something survived that, we'd be able to use. But he's not actually, no, he's not thinking we'll find an actual cleric around. It's more
Gotcha.
like ransack, go search, if we can find a temple. But you're
So
thinking,
I would say if you're thinking about places here that you feel like could kind of fit into that mix, um, you're basically going to start to think of some of the buildings that you all have already stopped at because they're semi-remarkable. Oh, that was way too small. Thin is like invisible on this map. So maybe you start to think of like the museum over here. There's another building over here that was kind of like semi-remarkable. Otherwise you start to wonder about the actual like arcane school. There's places that key you into like these buildings are a little bit different. Um, but in general, I would say the one that really keys for you that might be temple-ish is going to be that one over near the transmutation illusion towers.
okay,
And that again is just under the idea like you guys have scouted this place. When you think about the architecture, something's going to be special about a temple that like the remaining special buildings in this place. I guess Felix has never kind of shared what the actual Sky Tower is, and that would potentially put the Sky Tower as something of interest for you guys as well. That might even sit among the top ones because the Sky Tower is one of the few structures that it's similar to the Wizard Towers, it's similar to the actual school towers, and then it's also similar to like the observatory. So the Sky Tower has some connection there. Um, you guys just haven't really explored it yet.
Right. Yeah, I mean that other building is not too far from the Tower of Illusion, which we are planning to go back to in any event. So perhaps if we're leaving the library, we you know head down head down this way from the library, and perhaps we could you know
Yeah, depending on like the schedule that you guys wonder if you can keep, there's the potential also that you could do like abjuration, transmutation, that place, the illusion, evocation, and make your way back around. Because you kind of need those four in that like southern loop, and that's 5 buildings in generally the same direction. But if you go to evocation, you should go to chain lightning first. So keep that in mind. You're also technically close to the Tower of Divination while you're at the library. Do we currently have Fen back that the 3 of you could choose what direction you're going to go?
Yeah, I'm back.
Does everybody like the idea of checking that place that is the potential temple between transmutation and illusion? You could then like go to illusion, finish your play, potentially come back to transmutation, and then also potentially go to abjuration. Uh, and if that's like your full day, then go back to conjuration. That's kind of a loop.
That works for me.
That sounds like a good plan. We can go ahead and get a lot done throughout the day as well.
So if that sounds good, let's do this one with D12 from all 3 of you, please. And then let me get perceptions from all of you. So, walking through most of the city, everything is back to this moment of it's that eerie quiet. And now that you kind of understand these like massive flying hands, and you've started to see things like that creature that like sunk into the actual earth, and its belly itself was like trying to consume you. You guys have seen some of how this place is quiet but alive. There's a tension in the air. There's still like a smell of ozone of magic that's always happening here. There's an eerie breeze at time that flows through different areas of the city, and you have that bright light of the mythaler constantly kind of like flowing in pulses. And there's different portions of lighter and darker area as little things get in the way of it. But it's like still being near a tiny little sun. And you guys are crossing through the city. Then at some point, that actual peak of the tower, the Sky Tower south of the museum, is going to kind of cue to you. And you're going to notice this time that there are 2 stone figures that are sitting atop that tower that were not there the first time that you've gone by. 20 perception. I think you could kind of make out they seem like almost demonoids. You can kind of see their wings. Make a either history or arcana check for me. I think that's enough for you to recognize that these are potentially magical creatures that are actually roosted as if they are pieces of the actual building itself, but you can kind of see better. You have a solid memory of that building from when you all were first coming through here and trying to actually spot which of these towers are towers of these magical schools and which of these towers are simply that these people built towers. And those two creatures, they were not there before.
Well, Fen will pull up and relay that information to the rest of the party. Something to keep an eye on.
Brannick is kind of straining his eyes and kind of like, yeah, okay, I guess I can. Yeah, I guess I see now that you mention it. But yes, keep an eye on him. But should we continue on to the other tower, or?
I said we continue and see if they see what happens, see if they follow.
So I'd say we continue on our way and keep an eye and see what they do when we start moving out again.
Gotcha. So theoretically, that's like near the museum-ish, while you guys are kind of closest to that tower. Are you continuing to one of the actual towers of magic, or do you mean are you going to go towards that building of interest?
So I think we're going to continue on to the Tower of Illusion, right, and then start there, and then kind of work our way back.
All right, gotcha. So when you guys get far enough away where you start to enter into the fog of the Tower of Illusion, Valine is going to stop you all. Like underneath the arch, you're kind of in this thick, dense fog again. It's one of those moments where you can feel like the stickiness of the air. You can smell that the way that the magic sits on this place is a little bit different than some of the fresher air that almost has like the burning of ozone. But this is like stale and it feels weird on you. But inside of this, Valine's going to stop you all. And she's going to take a moment to warn you that those are indeed creatures of one of the other wizards of the Arcane Brotherhood, that they are spies of avarice. And she's going to describe this young 20 or so year old female who is a white tiefling. And she's quite a vile creature, not unwilling to gain power at all costs. I fear that she may want the worst of things to befall me. But she can basically confirm that that is one of the Arcane Brotherhood. At least a sign of her being here.
Is it the same white tiefling that Alexis talked to?
Yeah, we were discussing it last week, and we're pretty sure you never actually spoke about it, other than when you were kind of having the weird conversations, and Fen was a part of half of it. So we were kind of coming to the conclusion, like, I don't think you ever shared any of that with the rest of the party before Velixis fell. So I don't think they ever actually would have known that she was there, and you never actually shared where you were going, and just kind of stumbled off there when you like teleported. So kind of a weird situation, but yeah, as far as it goes, like out of game, it is the same tiefling.
Okay.
But I don't think anybody, including Valine, would know that she's necessarily like connected with Levistus. That's why I would say Valine understands her as somebody who would stab her in the back or accidentally have something happen. That's the way it really needs to happen. If an arcane brotherhood wizard is going to harm another, is that you need to assist in somebody having an accident. You can't be found to hurt them, or at least there can't be any witnesses to tell that you hurt them. But especially if it looks like an accident, almost like freezing in the wild as you're approaching Arl's Island. If it's an accident, it's perfectly normal. So otherwise, you all can go back into the Tower of Illusion. I think we just had it as one of like the main foot of the spire is the one that had the theater in it and has the young living version of Ajamar, High Illusionist Ajamar, who's kind of hiding behind like the curtains. But you all have your robes. You are all theoretically prepared to do this little presentation. Do you all know which parts you're all doing? Should I repost the actual handout, or do you all see the handout? Oh, it's not too far up. Did I tag it?
Yes, and Brannick has a couple of thoughts about some like special effects we might be able to
Gotcha.
use to
I
make it
just
more
pinned
like
it.
exciting.
I just pinned it in Discord if you guys need a fresh access to it. But do you guys want to take a break here? Come back in 15 minutes, but we can actually have like the out of game planning happen like during that break.
Yeah, because I imagine like in character we would have like once we decided this is where we're going, it might have been something we could like chat about on the way, but it might be good to have a little time to kind of just go over it kind of out of game.
Yeah, I think at very least, maybe before we even separate, there's 4 parts here. So Valine will play one of the parts, and then the 3 of you will all play a part as well. Do you guys want to like discuss the parts beforehand? So at very least, if somebody comes back solo, they can at least like practice their part.
So I was thinking now that we have Valine, um, because Brannick is thinking he can use some like magic to cause some like special effects. So he was thinking maybe he could do the narrator part because he wouldn't need to be necessarily like front and center. It would almost be like the off screen or off stage narrator. But he's not. I mean, like we're married to that idea, but that would just kind of be. He would suggest like maybe I could do the narrator if Feline is willing to do one of the other parts. Otherwise, Brannick can take one of the main actual parts.
Oh, what magic do you have that you would like to do for those parts? I was perhaps thinking I too could work as the narrator. And she'll kind of like sparkle some with prestidigitation. She'll like be able to cast like the light spell and kind of like have the owl kind of like sinking below like a horizon to like mimic the sun setting. What spells did you have in mind?
So primarily minor illusion, just for kind of like when the faces change, and maybe some like I don't think he can do sounds with I think he can with minor illusion. So maybe some sound effects, and then at the end when they talk about like the room beginning to glow, he was going to actually use the drift globe and it's more powerful to essentially like, or maybe like have it like lit up and but covered, and then kind of like uncover it to like um make it seem like the light is like starting to glow at the very end with the end of the scene.
If you were to play as Andas, you could potentially do all of those things while you are off of the stage.
Yes, I suppose I could. Sure, I
And were
can.
you thinking minor illusion to like make their faces look more like the troll? Is that what you meant there?
Yeah, almost like not like real, almost like yeah, like that, or like almost like an illusion of a troll mask. Like it's not going to be, it's like cheesy special effects, but
Yeah, you make them look hideous. You make them look weird and then green. I think that's entirely within minor illusion. Yeah, so I feel like Valine can kind of point you towards like, if I can be the narrator, I can do some of the sun and the moon and much of the extra kind of sparkles and flourishes. Basically, she can pretty much cast prestidigitation almost that entire time, with the owl itself being like the sun that's slowly setting. So those two things she can just kind of do like constantly. You can pretty much cast while you're up there as Andus before you get eaten and be able to manage those things. And then once you're off stage, it becomes a little bit easier. So I would say if it works for the other two, would Rashad like to be Benor or Simone? And same idea for Don. Do you two have any care which you play?
Not really. I can be Benor.
Yeah, Simone's fine by me. Simone.
So effectively, you guys will kind of all get set around the stage, effectively off stage. The curtains are drawn. There's nobody on the opposite side. You guys have walked through this place. It is stark empty. You will eventually see the high illusionist Ajamar, still kind of hid behind the curtain, kind of stage left. You all can walk up there, basically see, tell him that you're ready to put on the act, and he'll draw the curtain closed behind you, tell you all to get ready, and let him know when you're ready. Valine will take some of the costumes that are there and the robes that she has, and she's basically going to like flip her robe inside out, where you can see that it's kind of like shimmering with like an orange and yellow that almost makes it look like it's a big fluffy furry coat of hair that's just kind of like flowing away from her a little bit and almost like flows in the wind. And she's got these big, tall leather boots that reach up well past her knees, and a really huge, wide brimmed hat that is well past her shoulders in either direction, and a rapier to her side. And she kind of takes this pose in front of the curtain and kind of draws her sword up over her head as if she's preparing to duel somebody across the stage. And she's going to start. As she kind of like prepares, you hear like this initial like as she like prepares this breath, and you'll start to hear immediately from the other side of these curtains murmur of people as if this theater were filled. You can hear the conversations. You can start to feel like the sense of energy that's fluctuating in the room on the other side of this curtain. And she is going to start. We join our characters at sundown in the chapel of Ythryn. And as the curtains start to open, you see as her owl starts to like float just beyond the background and starts to just sink, and the shadow starts to draw across the stage, and a big spotlight is like shot down across this whole place, and you see the shadow opposite of Valine standing still in this very duel ready pose. Andos and Benor are about to be married. By marrying Benor, Andos gleefully gains rulership of both Ythryn and the Sunrest cities. Benor desires Andos's hand, because without true love's first kiss, Benor stands to live life cursed as a horrific, disgusting creature. And for the first moment, Valine starts to move and kind of like shadowing her face against the light. You see as she's like drawing and like scraping at her face as she moves for the first time and stares with the rest of her body held stare at the audience. What Benor doesn't know is that their love, Simon, is racing to arrive in time to proclaim love for Benor and stop them from making a great mistake in marrying the wrong person. And in an instant, Valine is going to kind of leap away and just kind of like run off the stage. And then you see as the light kind of casts back further onto the stage, where effectively all of you can take your places, but Valine has to you'll hear as the audience kind of starts to like the murmurs turn a little bit more towards like the occasional boo, boo, and then it's going to go to Andos.
Yeah, so Brannick is kind of standing center stage. Kind of, he's got Galeria next to him. He's taken on kind of like a very kind of haughty, wide smile, like looking down, kind of like like he's this is like his big day, but not. He doesn't look necessarily like happy in love. It's more happy like I'm getting what I want, and he kind of throws his arms out and like really like kind of hams it up a little bit. People of Ythryn, we gather here today to bear witness to the union of Benor and myself, of course. By the power vested in me by the arcane octad, I now pronounce us.
And Fen will come bounding onto the stage. I object.
May I please have you make a charisma check for me, persuasion, Fen? Oh, my bad. You can have it with advantage as well. You're going to hear more boo, boo.
Fen will hesitate a split second, but show goes on. Benor, you can't marry Andus. They don't love you. And I'll reach out pleadingly, kind of drop to one knee.
And Galeria would turn to face Simone. Simone, what are you doing here? You're about to ruin everything. When you turned your back on me, I moved on.
Fen's going to stand up and kind of turn away with one arm over his eyes. Benor, no choice. Didn't want to see the truth about me. That truth. I'm horrible. And then I think some of the illusions will start going off as he hops into like 3 different illusions. One as he's growing into the troll, he'll hide behind the horrible, grotesque troll.
Yeah, and
So, what were you thinking there, Brannick?
oh no, I was just kind of confirming what Ben. So essentially, Brannick is going to be kind of trying to kind of hide it from the audience, but moving to cast like an illusion so that like when Fen kind of like re-reveals himself, essentially he makes the illusion of like this disgusting troll face kind of appear in front of him, like
Gotcha.
over his face. Yeah.
So do another charisma check here. This one again from Fen, please. So that one, like, immediately the boos silence and you start to get, like, roaring claps and cheers, like, from the other side as you reveal the troll.
Yeah, and then Brannick is on this is kind of like you see this like this kind of smug smile just like wipes off his face. He takes on this like kind of like almost deranged like sneer, and he kind of like he like points off like off stage off to the side, and he's like guards, seize the troll. And then he kind of like turns and points to Fen. I want their brain put in a jar in my study. And then he kind of like pauses, kind of like closes his eyes, kind of like allows like the happy almost or like kind of smug mask to come back as he's turning back towards Benor. And then he's like kind of with a strained smile, is like, my love, shall we get back to the happiest day of our lives?
But Noah kind of look at Anders and then look at Simone. No, Anders, I cannot marry you. Simone, there's something I've been keeping from you too. And then just would just turn back towards the troll, to that monstrous green troll.
Yeah, and Brannick will kind of again move to try and like kind of surreptitiously cast it to kind of have the same effect for Galeria as he did previously for Fen.
I think on this one, I need, charisma from Benor here. Advantage, please. So this time, as the like roar and cheers kind of turn to like angry boos, you're all going to feel just like a wave of pressure that flies over the stage, and I need, I believe, wisdom saving throws from everyone, please. All right. Galeria and Valine are going to take 18 psychic damage. And are frightened of the audience. Um, so I believe that means you have to not only look away from them, you have to try to run as far away to where you can't see them, or you can move no closer if you don't go. Disadvantage on ability checks while in line of sight. Yep. And then can't willingly move closer. So I think that one was at line 8 to Andus. Did you say that already? My bad.
Nope, not yet. I think that roll was
All right,
after Benor's line 7. And so Brannick is going to like do a very dramatic, almost like grabbing his robes and like doing like a big step back, and it's like, fine, Mistral, you're both disgusting. Guards, kill them both. And I think like almost like as he's saying that, he's going to try and again cast minor illusion, this time to essentially almost make a sound of like stamping heavy like feet, as if like guards are coming from off stage kind of thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, Valine also I think can kind of like make some of like the sound to like accentuate like the movement of feet, like using a different sound to work with yours, and you'll kind of like, I don't think there's any reason. Yeah, you're actually going to see some of these actual creatures you all have seen in this city that march onto the stage. And as Valine's kind of looking away from the audience now, she's almost like holding still with her sword like pointed up into the air, still in a very like tight formed dueling posture, with this big brimmed hat. She's gonna like throw the hat to the side as she like reaches out, so not like throwing it away, but she's holding like the globe out to her side and starts to cover the actual glow of the cat even more, cascading this evening sun across the stage. And she's going to say, "Magen, enter the room from all sides." And you all see as four of these like greenish teal creatures all walk in and just kind of like march up onto the stage. The scene looks hopeless for our heroes when suddenly Simon lets out a mighty call. Within moments, a huge dragon crashes into the chapel and eats Andos whole. With their leader defeated, the Magians stand down. All eyes return to Benor and Simon. And you'll see as like all of the Magian on the stage, their like shoulders drop and they kind of sink, and the hat gets closer to covering over. I assume that's when you teleport out. Can I have you make a stealth check with advantage, please?
Yep, so that'll be like as the when she talks about the dragon coming down, that's when Brannick will cast Misty Step.
And again, the room's going to just roar out in cheers as you disappear. And Simone?
Benor, I love you.
Simon, I love you too.
And sorry, I just wanted to mention once Brannick is like off stage, he's going to get out the drift globe that he carries. He's going to kind of cover it up, but activate it with the daylight spell, but keep it covered for now.
Gotcha. So as they like proclaim their love, there's like sparks kind of like sinking down from above the stage and kind of falling all around them. So it's like just sparkling like glitter kind of flowing around them. Simone and Benora approach each other and share a romantic kiss. As their lips touch, the room begins to glow, and both of them lift up into the air. And there'll just be like a couple of ropes that like drop down above you guys. A wave of light spreads over the room, and when it clears, Simone and Benor are both human again. Everyone cheers. Everyone cheers and the curtain closes.
Yeah, as as the narrator was speaking, like Brannick essentially slowly lifts the covering from the drift glow to allow the light to kind of penetrate out.
Hopefully the mouse does not come after us for putting on such things. Can I get charisma checks for how well Fen and Galeria sell the kiss? Advantage, please. Fen recognizes only at the end of the actual play by not requesting a better part, did he decide that he would be kissing a bugbear today. Fen does not sell it. Have you rolled a performance for me, Rashad?
Let's see.
Valeria saved the performance.
Ben, can you roll a intelligence saving throw? Bad. This is a spell I was not prepared for. I don't know if I just missed it. Not sure how much it will change things. But I need to find this real quick. My apologies. Oh, you would have had advantage on it. It's a charm spell. And 17 is the DC, so you would save it with that. You like see as like these bluish clear like prison cells starts to like form around you, and you just like think for a moment like, oh shit. And then you also recognize these people have been dead for hundreds and thousands of years, and you just kind of like push them to the side, and these prison bars just like fall from your perception, and then you're back on stage with them. The audience like immediately goes quiet, but you guys have at the side of the stage. I cannot clap and hold my push to talk button, but you kind of hear the clap of High Illusionist Ajamar and like this big, huge smile on his face. Great job! You guys were wonderful. Very much the best show I have put on for hundreds of years. Excellent job.
And Brandon kind of getting into it. This is not something that he normally does, but he kind of does one of those big, huge, kind of flourishing bows that actors do, like after a play.
When you bow, like the cheer comes from outside, and make a dexterity saving throw. You like hear like this cheer for this moment, and you kind of like pick up kind of like the whistle of a bouquet of flowers like coming down. It wouldn't have like hurt you really bad, but it was definitely the type of thing like your premonition and just kind of recognizing something just really quickly kind of like formed and disappeared over there. But you dodged this like 8 pound like pointed almost lawn dart kind of bouquet of flowers as somebody throws like a bouquet of roses to you as you bow.
Yeah, so he'll kind of like maybe a little less gracefully kind of get back, kind of straighten himself back up. And yes, we were rather good, if I do say so myself.
Oh, it was wonderful, delightful, excellent, much more than rather good. Will you stay for another? I've got more plays. I can write them for you. You all were excellent. What do you call your troupe? How long can you stay for? Do you all have an agent?
Perhaps we might discuss future performances at some later date, but I'm afraid we have some rather pressing business elsewhere at the moment. And Brannick is obviously lying here. He's just trying to be kind of, diplomatic about it.
I don't necessarily think you have to sell a whole lot where I would like require a deception check here. But what are you all thinking? Are you all done here? Are you ready to leave?
So Brannick was going to, like, after kind of like saying that, like, perhaps in the future, but there is something that you might be able to assist us with now that we've
Ask, of course. I'm at your pleasure. That was wonderful. What can I do for you?
there is a ritual to gain admittance to the central spire. Um,
And he's just going to interrupt you. Yes, yes. Sixth, hide thyself behind a mask. and he just like takes like one of the like random masks basically from like this little wardrobe, and it's as simple as he just like draws it across his face.
Ah, yes.
Where he like
Excellent.
pulls one away, and then you'll see as he like pulls it away, and he's wearing like the face of like Catavix, and you see as he like basically displays you could also disguise self. But it's all kind of like this isn't interesting to him. He wants to try to talk you all into doing another show. But he's kind of like still like into this. So if you all have any other questions for him, you certainly can. At present, if all you required was the actual part of the arcane octet, he doesn't hold it from you for a moment. He is like super fanboying, fawning over you right now.
So Brian just kind of looked towards Fen and Galeria. I didn't have anything else to add. Brennick wasn't thinking of anything else, but
If neither of the other two have thoughts here, let me ask you to roll a intelligence check for me. That's a solid. I don't care to ask any more questions if I've ever seen one. So, Galeria, it might dawn on you. You guys have access to somebody, and you've wondered about what kind of things could be causing this in the city. Do you want to ask any questions about what you're investigating?
well, with that roll, it doesn't occur to Brannick. So
Yeah, it would be more Galeria kind of pointing out, like, something to the effect of, we were wondering what has been changing in the city. Is there anything that you couldn't tell us? And she can actively, like, basically start to think of a question. You could look towards the others. There has to be a question we can ask regarding what we have looked over in the city. But what kind of thoughts do you all have? Like, just as somebody else to ask, is there anything else about the city that you guys can think to ask while you have this person on hand? And you don't necessarily have to play that six now. Galeria can certainly inspire you to ask a different question with the recognition that you guys have somebody and they're fawning over you.
So Glue will let you turn and say, we might be able to get more, find some more information out about the city, about what's going on here.
yeah, so I guess Brannick will kind of step forward and towards the person, and while we're here, we're basking in the adulation of the crowds. Did have perhaps a couple more questions we might be able to ask you, us being relatively new to the city and all.
So, as you're kind of like discussing this, the initial thing that's going to happen is that Anjamar is going to invite you back up to the higher floor, like to kind of lounge around, take some tea, enjoy some champagne, and really celebrate your opening night. And again, a lot of the language is going to have things to try to keep you all around, almost to try to inspire you all to think of this as like you're going to be actors, and kind of like really goes off on this. But he will take you all back up, and you can kind of sit down in the lounge. You'll see that Ajamar walking around sees everything in this room kind of except for the corpse of Anjamar. And I feel like I don't even know if that's supposed to be him piled off on the edge. But imagine maybe that there's like a beauty chair somewhere where like this corpse is just, yeah, let's just call it that little area to the left of Brennick. That's like the fallen body of Ajamar. And this illusory Ajamar isn't even paying attention to it. But yeah, otherwise, you guys have this whole room right now. He'll sit you down. You can ask any other questions. But it's basically this setup you've kind of walked into. Pretty beautiful place. As far as things go, like it's like really centerpieced on this massive mirror that kind of like draws you in, and you can kind of see this is like a 360-degree mirror to really check yourself out kind of thing.
Yeah, so I guess once we're situated upstairs, and Brannick would probably accept the offer of tea if it was given, and there's actual tea and all that. But he would kind of once he'd take a seat, and to Ajamar, he kind of like glance off once towards like kind of the body, and then towards Ajamar, and then just kind of little shake of his head, and then kind of continue. Um, uh, One or two of my companions were hoping to stop in and uh, pay their respects to the gods for a safe journey here, and perhaps now also thanks for this play going off as well as it did. Um, we saw a building, and he'll kind of go on to describe the building off to the right on the map. So not the Sky Tower, but the other one that looks kind of vaguely temple-ish.
Gotcha. The initial one I think I circled. I think it's the only one circled now. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
the
like
museum in it are circled, but that one.
yes, yeah. And people say like I saw this building. It seemed like it perhaps might be a temple or shrine or something. Are we on the right track there? Is that uh, where they should go?
Make a perception for me as you kind of like set down your tea. And Ajamar's going to look at you as you make this description, and you'll just see like a look of kind of confusion on you. So we have no need for divine aid. We have studied the way of the ancient nether scrolls. And you'll see like a curt little like kind of like thank you nod towards Fen. And we have found ourselves rising beyond such things. No. The building you speak of is for relaxation. We often call it, and it ends up being kind of an untranslatable term, the way he says it. Like, you can kind of see there's like not a dumbed down way to say this. Would you like to basically ask him to repeat it after you cast Comprehend Languages?
Uh, yeah, I think he will go ahead and cast it.
a spell slot to be able to choose ahead of time whether you want to investigate it or not is a worthy sacrifice. He's basically going to describe what is. Um, it's called the Hall of Weightless Wonders. It's kind of a place where wizards would go, and there's no gravity inside of that building. So it's a place of total relaxation because you don't need to hold your neck up while you sit lotus position. You don't need to hold your knees. You just kind of go in there and step out of your body and relax all things. And it just kind of like describes it's a very like posh place. It's not for everyone to go to. It is a very special place where the 8 and usually between 5 and 6 other individuals are really allowed access to it. Otherwise, it's basically like, uh, oh man, what is it? The Gentleman's Club. It's like it's like the jackets when you win like golf majors.
Oh yeah, that's very exclusive. Yeah, private club like the Harvard Club or something like that.
Yeah, but you guys can basically from that make the decision if you want to go check it out. But the important information is to pick up. He kind of scoffs at the idea of gods. Pretty much me telling you, there's not really temples here. They don't have anybody that they need to worship. But that is a place of meditation. If you want to still go there, you now know exactly what it is. It's a place to find yourself essentially weightless. And it's a really good place to then relax, potentially for a short rest. But you guys kind of have that. But otherwise, that perception, as you are setting down your tea, you like notice yourself kind of setting it down on this piece of paper, and you're like expending this uh, comprehend languages spell. And as your like tea kind of sets down, you start to see like the meaning of the actual piece of paper there. You can pick up a scroll of illusory dragon, and then you see a deck of cards right beside it, and you can see like on the back of it, it's kind of like sparkling. That deck of cards basically says, Ajimar's deck of illusions.
So yeah, Brannick is going to um I think he's going to try to think of another question to ask and maybe almost kind of like um if there's is there any like art or anything around this? Essentially he's trying to distract Ajamar with another question and then try to kind of surreptitiously kind of like swipe the items from the
Again, the mirror is very remarkable in this place, so perhaps you have a reason to maybe like draw his attention towards the mirror itself. Perhaps like discussing like some of the like edging. Maybe you want to get his eyes away from the reflective area. But basically, there's a lot of scattered clothing. You can tell that this is an actor's room. Um, I've immediately go to some of the strippers that I've known in my life who are extremely messy people, but they've just got hundreds of outfits that are always strewn across their bedroom. This is that kind of like setup where it's just like there's 7,000 pairs of pants in this room. You just like look around, it's just a mess. But like the mirror, it's like, wow, you've got to spend at least half your life in front of this to spend so much money on a mirror.
yeah, so he might like yeah, kind of like pointing to the edging and that's I've never seen such fine craftsmanship. You must tell me, you know, where did you acquire such a piece and stuff like that, and kind of hoping to kind of essentially draw his eyes kind of away and then try to kind of surreptitiously grab the paper and the deck of cards and kind of stash them away.
So you've already been kind of flourishing everything with the actual performance. Are you going to do like a cantrip flourish?
Maybe almost like try and like make like almost like a little like kind of like a glint of light or like a sparkle off the edge of the like the gilt edge of the mirror or something like
Gotcha. Did you actually have prestidigitation? What were you using earlier?
that. I was using minor illusion. I do not have
All right, minor
prestidigitation.
illusion. Gotcha. Yeah, that's still perfectly fine for me. Let me get theoretically, I think this is either a sleight of hand with advantage or perhaps a performance with advantage. I have a feeling. Oh, yeah, you don't even have sleight of hand. I immediately was like, oh, he's such a thief. I'm telling you, it's right in front of you. And your thought was, I have to steal it, not that I can just take it.
Yeah, but no, I was thinking, yeah, sleight of hand, essentially, like kind of like palming.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can definitely have the sleight of hand with the advantage here. Yeah, so as you kind of like draw his attention back towards the mirror, and you like swipe these things in with like the same motion of like setting down your tea, you kind of like take a little coaster and you move the coaster over and you move the deck and the piece of paper out of the way to set your tea down as you like immediately flow into like discussing the mirror, and you do your little like sparkle of like the illusion to make all the gems kind of like cascade across it, blinking in light. And Ajamar, clearly a narcissist, like is so excited to talk about his mirror, and his attention is fully locked into that, as you can 100% swipe those. um yes, my mirror, it is quite honestly the most amazing thing that I was ever to decide. I made the right choice. Its surface isn't real, so if there's no one pushing back, then the resistance you won't feel.
Fascinating.
And he just kind of like taps on his forehead, and just kind of like goes back to like wherever his tea is, and he sips a little bit on his tea.
Step back again in case Ben or Valyria.
Any other thoughts from either of you?
Off the top of my head.
Yeah, I can't think of any either.
Let me have everybody roll a perception check.
But I think Brennick was like gonna maybe ask like if Ajamar has ever been to any of the games at the stadium.
It has been some time since I've done such trivial things, but I used to certainly enjoy them much more. It was a nice way to unwind and enjoy a little bit of sport. But sadly, High Evoker's Abdulis ruined much of that, and he's quite the prodigy. Entirely too skillful for anyone to compete with. It took much of the fun out of it when he rose into his.
Yes, it certainly seems quite proud of those trophies.
Do you have anything that you're like trying to get out of him with that? Like, what kind of thoughts do you have about the trophies? Or did that kind of answer what you were going at?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have anything specific that I was kind of really just fishing for. I'm trying to think if you would have any like follow up questions.
Well,
More
what do you think
specific.
you're fishing for from it?
Just like yeah, kind of just more like okay, yeah, like the games were there, and yeah, high evoker. Um, uh,
Gotcha. So you weren't necessarily looking for anything in particular. A confirmation was kind of enough.
yeah, like I don't know. Maybe he might ask, like, have you ever, do they present the trophies like right there at the stadium? You're, been to one of like the, almost more like, I guess, like how the games, I guess you might ask questions about like how the games like work exactly, but I really didn't have
Gotcha.
any specific.
Well, this is me trying to say, like, I don't know what you're looking for. If you tell me what you're looking for, I can potentially give it to you. But if you ask for an explanation of the game, I think it would be perfectly satisfactory for you to understand that, yeah, Wizards of the Netherese really enjoyed Chain Lightning. It is a fun game for Wizards to play. Effectively, you pretty much travel around slinging lightning balls at each other. And it is a lot about trying to hit other people before you get hit. And there's scoring points effectively by hitting other people. Um, so it's an inherently dangerous, but nobody was aiming for deadly kind of game. Uh, Probably, I would say, in modern days to us, pretty comparable to like rugby, where it's about as hardcore as a game kind of gets. Um, and I would continue with, yeah, there's definitely a sensation where like everybody enjoys it, but High Evokers of Duelist was a little bit too good, and it just started to kind of ruin it for people. Um, but yeah, like it's basically the trophies would be associated with the actual play. So when you think of like, is he bringing them back from? It's the stadium. Um, I think it could confirm that again, you guys are ready to go after a trophy. That's pretty much where you need to go is to the stadium. Uh, think you might have some sense. Perhaps there's like a practice. Yeah, I think you could probably share that there's like a practice um setting almost kind of thing. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, you guys can go there to play a game and try to win a trophy.
Okay, yeah, yeah, that was about the extent of what Brannick was kind of trying to get after. So
Then, when you see uh the illusionist Ajamar kind of describing his wonderful mirror that Brannock was so kind to kind of notice. You start to recognize that there's not the same things in each of this room and what's being shown in that mirror. There is a wardrobe inside of the mirror that is not in this room.
How big is it?
The actual wardrobe would be, what, probably like 7 or 8 feet tall, I think, for most. Probably like, say, 4 or 5 feet wide. Like an entire section of this room is like not being kind of shown in that wardrobe. Trying to think, trying to see.
I think Fen would walk up near to the mirror and kind of move around and check the different angles, and then look at it, look back. Azamar, is there perhaps more to this room than what we were able to perceive?
Roll an intelligence for me. So as you're kind of like thinking of that, before you necessarily actually say it, you'll recall that his response to Brennick bringing up the mirror was to say, my mirror is a doorway whose surface isn't real. If there's no one pushing back, then resistance you won't feel. Do you want to ask him if there is something special about his mirror?
Yeah, I will point out what I've noticed and ask him about it.
Make a charisma check for me. Kind of tapping on his nose. You'll see as he kind of looks at you. A little bit too close to the mark, my friend. Indeed, you'll see I keep my most important things well beyond reach. So I'll leave you guys with that riddle. That's something that you don't necessarily have to treat with today, and you can perhaps come back to at a later date. But everybody at least has an idea of what is going on here.
Yeah, when the moment you mentioned the closet inside the mirror, I was like, "Are we in a?" I figured that either we was in a room that was flipped around, where the actual room was inside the mirror, and we were just inside of the room that's actually inside the mirror.
I was almost thinking that just like there's another like a room behind like the mirror is essentially like an illusory wall almost kind of thing.
You'll want to continue to investigate it?
Um, I mean, we're not going to get him in a better mood than he already is.
Fen will turn and ask him, do you just touch the mirror surface to activate it?
Indeed, it is a rather simple process. For those who are aware.
Brannick is going to, he's kind of like stare and kind of approach towards the mirror and looking to Ajimar. And I have some skill in the arcane arts myself. I must admit, I've never seen anything quite like this. Don't want to impose, but perhaps you could show me how it works.
I've already told you, if you were worthy, I wouldn't need to show you anything at all.
Fair enough. And he's going to kind of like, with like one arm, kind of like gesture towards the mirror and like, do you mind?
Yeah, and just standing right next to you, he'll just kind of look to you. Oh no, enjoy, have whatever you would care. And he kind of like flourishes his hand out in it's not like the Vanna White pose, but in that kind of like jester like kind of way to like bring out both arms and like the have anything to your delight.
So Brandon will kind of give like a kind of like a almost like a sideways nod of kind of like thank you kind of nod, and then yeah, he's going to go kind of move to in front of the mirror, and then kind of like with a glance back towards Fen and Galeria, kind of like, and then with one hand just kind of held that a little in front of him, moved to almost like actually like kind of like step through, almost like leading with his hand.
Gotcha. So the moment that your hand like reaches out towards the mirror, you're just going to bump into the mirror.
And then looking, I guess, looking in the different panes, does he see like where the actual wardrobe is, and try to kind of like um, reach out for that, almost like to open it, kind of thing.
I think you could see where it is and kind of the same thing. Like when you like reach out for it, as soon as you get close to the mirror, when your image like comes close to itself, you just bump into it.
So yeah, okay. So Brannick will kind of turn back and
A bit of a chuckle from the illusionist. It really is quite genius. Almost as wonderful as your acting troupe.
Deliria would actually take a look at the mirror
Oh,
and
you too, my dear. Please enjoy yourself. I enjoy seeing your creativity.
I do apologize. I did not mean to just impose. I do hope it is okay. Uh, so Deliria is actually looking at the mirror. She looks at where the wardrobe is in the mirror, but instead of reaching up in the mirror, she goes to where that location is in the room to see if she can feel the wardrobe in that location.
Gotcha. So just kind of moving to the opposite side of the room. I think it's just that box on the opposite side of the room here. Um, you can like move over there and I think that's where the door is here and it's the wardrobe there, but it just opens and you see like the stairs you climb to get here. I think that's what they're going for with this picture. I think this picture that I actually have, part of what was confusing me is that wardrobe's not supposed to be here. But you can go to the opposite side of the room and there's nothing over there. It's just the door.
That's not the answer either.
And still kind of like right behind you. Um the illusionist will kind of like look to you and just life really is all about the images that you put forward to others. And you'll see as he's like saying this, he like casts disguise self over himself and he looks exactly like you, Brannick.
okay. Uh, okay, so now Brannick thinks maybe he knows what's going on here. But he will, yeah, kind of nod again towards Ajimar, now looking like him, and see. I see. Yes, it is a impressive.
So, assuming that you've picked up on everything I've been saying has still been him giving you clues how to solve this, do you know how to get through, or do you want to make an intelligence check for me? Perhaps intelligence arcana to see if you understand what he is saying.
So what I'm thinking is that the mirror is looking for, essentially it's like almost like attuned to his image, so that you have to essentially present yourself as Ajumar, and he's the only one who can actually move through um, this thing. That's
Do you
kind of
want to say that to him?
I mean, not in the, not in those exact words, but yeah, I think, yeah,
I
maybe
mean, you
Brennick
can
would.
narratively say it to him, and he'll change his form back, and he'll reach out to the mirror and show you as he presses his hand up against the mirror, and he's still right next to you.
Hmm.
So let me get an intelligence check from you. Do either of you have Arcana? I guess Valine would technically be there.
I mean, I have Arcana, if I could use that.
Oh yeah, that was just an intelligence. Yeah, my bad. I asked before for the actual Arcana. What's the
Yeah.
difference in the modifier? Like +4 is your proficiency right now?
Actually, add 8 to that because that's expertise.
Oh, that's an expertise? Yeah, so with a 20, um, you get the sensation of he's saying, my mirror is a doorway whose surface isn't real. So if there's no one pushing back, when he reaches out to touch the surface, you see him. You've seen yourself. There's someone pushing back. What might you do to touch a mirror surface but have no one pushing back?
Oh, okay. So like cast invisibility, that you're not casting a reflection, or
Do you have invisibility?
I do not, but I believe we might have a potion of invisibility.
Would
Yes,
you like to
Brennick
drink
had.
it?
Um, yeah, at this point, Brennick is, well, he would kind of like, he would probably like try to like quietly mention like, okay, now I think I figured it out to um uh Fen and Illyria.
Make a deception here to not be like emotively sharing your whole soul as you're kind of thinking about this. Yeah. So I think there's a pretty solid sense where he kind of looks over to the evoker. Or not the evoker. The actual corpse of the illusionist on the ground. And kind of reaching out to you, he's going to lay his hand on yours. And you won't feel anything. This is not a real person. If you have solved the real riddle, you are more than welcome to my material things. I have no use for such things. And I believe these centuries, I do not ever want to wake up living once again. And he'll kind of like usher towards Fen and towards uh Galeria and himself, and he's going to step away from the mirror so you guys have a little bit of distance between yourselves. And if you drink the potion, when you go to reach out, you are going to disappear. Well, one, you're going to disappear when you drink the potion, but you're going to like kind of flip over to this other side of the mirror where you could see the actual wardrobe on the opposite side of the room. You will see all of them inside of the mirror, but in this room, there's no one here. It will just be Brennick. And you kind of have effectively your own little subspace at present on the opposite side of the room.
Yeah, so I think Brennick would go ahead and drink the potion and step through. Um, yeah, and then maybe he would go uh, to the wardrobe, move to, I guess, open it.
So there's probably about maybe like 4 or 5 cloaks hanging up inside of it, as well as there's a bunch of tiny, almost like green little flakes of dust at the bottom of the wardrobe.
So Brannick is going to. His first thing he'll do is kind of like bend down and take a look at these flakes and see if they just look like normal rust.
Do you have any reason to recognize like rock or otherwise fragments?
Probably not unless it's something that they've like come across.
I'm not sure. It's jade. I feel like jade is semi-known enough. I can't think of what spells it might be useful as a component, and I think that would be the most likely reason for you to recognize it. But effectively, I would say at very least you can recognize it as some sort of like effectively shaving or dust that would be a gem, maintaining some level of value. Albeit this is in one of its worst forms because it's dust. So I'd say whether you actually know it's jade is certainly up to you, but you can certainly recognize that it has value.
Okay, yeah, I don't think I have any of my spells that would call for any sort of thing like that, but he might.
I don't know if I've ever seen jade called for, is part of why I would say it there.
I think it might be used in some like higher level spells where you have to essentially create like replicas of things or like miniature jeweled things. That's the only thing I can think of that it might like be lower level stuff. Probably not because
Yeah, but even some of the big ones that actually require like large components, again, like all of my time reading spells, I feel like that's like one I haven't actually seen, but I wouldn't be surprised that there are some. So you can definitely collect it up if you've got something to put it into. 100% grab it. Do you take all of the robes?
I think he's. He doesn't want to spend 10 minutes to ritually cast detect magic. Yeah, but since
Gonna burn the spell slot? Oh, you only have it ritual though, maybe?
I don't have it prepared, but yeah, but I guess yeah, since Ajamar um kind of said he was well. Actually, the first thing is he might kind of check to see if there's anything in any of the pockets of any of these robes.
I don't see any reason why there would be. One thing I might remind you is if you do cast something, you might also find yourself not able to get back.
Yeah, I didn't really think that through. But yeah, I guess he'll go to kind of like gather up the cloaks.
Gotcha.
And then putting them kind of awkwardly over like one arm, trying to like kind of lug them around a bit.
Feel like maybe on some level they would become invisible with you, but I'm gonna go for that. Certain
Oh yeah, I
level,
guess it
when you
is. Yeah.
pick stuff up, it kind of like is brought into your invisibility more than that, like it only goes over things that you were wearing then.
Yeah, I think it is like, yeah, anything you wear or carry. Uh, but yeah, and then cognizant that I don't know if he would know how long a potion of invisibility would last. But he's thinking he's only got the one, so he doesn't want to, if this works the same way on the other end, he doesn't want to get stuck in here. So he might, uh, yeah. Is there anything else like that immediately draws his attention as he kind of turns away from the wardrobe, like a desk or a bookshelf or something like that?
Everything else is actually like reflected in the mirror. So I think it would kind of sit on the idea that like there's clothing over here. There are other things, but I don't think there's any reason for anything to necessarily pique your interest. Um, for what it's worth, I was thinking to kind of maybe it's best to describe these things almost sit as two-dimensional, but I would say this space is pretty clearly the point is the wardrobe is here. Everything else I think is less real in this place. I almost wanted to describe like when you walk through like the center, you can actually see where the others are reflected. They're almost like paintings on the wall, and you almost see that like perspective shift where like from the angle of right in front of the mirror they look like your normal friends. But as you take a step forward, it's almost like they're drawn out like spaghetti. Another step forward, and they hardly look humanoid. And by the time you're halfway across the room, you like there's nothing even remotely recognizable except for almost like just this pattern of somewhat similar colors. And you can kind of see like this room isn't real. The wardrobe is the real thing.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So once he's gathered up the cloaks and I guess yeah the jade dust, maybe even into the now empty vial that had the potion of invisibility in it. Um, I don't know if that would actually like if there's enough residue in there to turn the jade
That would be
invisible.
hilarious if it could cause some sort of like extra reaction. But yeah, you can mark down the jade as 100 gold worth of jade dust. That's one of the few things that makes me feel like it might be a component. I still can't think of where. And you can take those robes back across in pretty much similar way. Let's say you put them into your backpack and they disappear, and you touch the mirror again and go through.
Yes, we'll try to go back through the
One
bring them
of the
through to the other
biggest
side.
things, it's probably shocking to recognize how silent that place was. And when you're almost like kind of caught up in being invisible, you almost feel like you're still kind of doing something a little bit of a slight towards the actual high illusionist Ajamar. But like when you go over there, you don't recognize right away. But coming back over, just hearing the breaths of your friends in this room is almost like thunderously loud. And that will kind of like sit with you for a moment while you're shocked. And it's just that kind of weird moment of recognizing. Silence can be deafening sometimes, but you can immediately kind of step back through. Still don't think there's any reason for you not to be invisible. I feel like invisibility is a really long potion. I think it's an hour.
Yeah, I was just looking it up too. Yeah, like I don't think Brannick would know how long it specifically would last, but yeah, it is an hour. Yeah. So it might
Yeah.
even like kind of call back, like once he's back on the other side. It's like, I'm back.
Yes, so there might be like a little bit of a start from the others, as nothing would have changed for them. It would have felt kind of like just moments. As far as I'm concerned, it's kind of like almost like a gravity well going on to the other side. You have more time on the other side than there is time kind of over here. Um, but you can kind of return to this area. When you call that out, the illusionist will chuckle and kind of like not necessarily recognizing where you are, but kind of looking vaguely towards the mirror. You kind of have a sense like he's looking you in the eye despite not being able to see you. It might feel a little bit eerie, but it also kind of gives you a sense that even at the moment of his creation, he was well enough aware like where he steps out of the mirror. um and there's like a wry little smile, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. It will be nice to imagine that everything goes to a good home, and perhaps you all will come back for another show. We can't get enough of you.
You are a most generous patron of the art friend, and yes, perhaps sometime in the future, another show. But for the moment, I think we may need to take our leave. Thank you again.
Always leave them wanting more.
Gotcha. While you're hanging out there, do you take the time to like check or any of these magic, or are you just kind of throwing them back there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we're kind of like going to be hanging around for a little bit, yeah, Brannick will kind of he'll take the robes out uh of the backpack, maybe kind of start to lay them on the ground so that Fen and Illyria can actually see them again. Um, and then kind of like maybe take a seat again and start to ritually cast detect magic.
Gotcha. Does that sound good to Fen or Gariel? Are you all ready to hang out while he actually like identifies these? Well, checks these 6 robes.
Galeria's is okay with it.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. So as you kind of spend these, I think it's a total of 11 or so minutes casting this, you will see that indeed 3 of these cloaks are magical. 3 of them are really nice and probably approximately in that 2 to 3 or 2 to 250 gold range. They're likely some of those warp spider sewn silk cloaks, but the other 3 are all magical. Um, do you want to put them on? I think you would see 2 of them. Maybe one is illusory magic, one is conjuration, and I want to say the other is abjuration.
So I'm pretty sure if Brannick wanted to put one of them on, he would need to take off and unattune to the because he's already wearing that mantle of spell resistance, which I think is basically a cloak. So you can wear 2.
On some level, you can wear multiple cloaks, but I do understand. Like, I have a feeling most of it would probably be more about can you attune to others? Because often there's like a traveling cloak and then like a rain cloak, or like one cloak to keep you warm and one to keep you dry.
Gotcha. Okay.
But are you like shy on attunement slots?
I have one. I have one open one. I don't know. I wasn't sure. Like I always just kind of assumed like you can't wear like obviously like two things of gloves, or I just figured kind of a cloak is probably the same way. But if yeah, he might try on the illusion one, thinking maybe that's this guy's favorite since we are in the Tower of Illusion.
Make a Arcana check for me. As you kind of like throw it across your shoulders, and immediately kind of like start to feel this cloak like almost snug up around you. You start to think and wonder how it might look on you. And you start to wonder, how might I want it to look? And Brennick, I would like to know, how do you want to look right now?
Yes. You want something kind of that I don't know that looks like well-made fabric, probably kind of like dark, kind of muted colors, not real ostentatious, but almost like just like something that like someone of authority would wear.
So you guys see as like Brennick like throws this around his shoulders. You see as his like eyes kind of for
I think technically it's still invisible, unless we're gonna wait an hour for it to wear off.
no, you cast detect magic, so you already cast a spell.
Oh, right.
So
Yeah.
when you like twirl it around your shoulders, you'll see as Brannick's head kind of like rises high, and it kind of like his cloak like almost like flows in darkness as it kind of moves between like a really solid deep dark black and kind of into like a gray and like almost like tanning into a brown before for a moment it like flashes these bright orange and reds, and like you can almost see like the fire inside of this cloak as his mind like drifts towards not ostentatious. And then for a moment it kind of like, shit, I forgot where you went from there. You distracted me. Oh, you said authoritative. And then you see is like around the shoulders, the like shoulders of it kind of like puff into these like like dangly little, oh man.
Like epaulets
I don't know
or
exactly what that is, but I
tassels.
think, yeah,
Okay.
tassels is what I was looking for. But I think the epaulets is the right thing where it's like almost like shoulder pads, but they're like shoulder pads with tassels, and it's got this gold thread kind of woven through, and like the actual like breast part of the cloak is this really like gaudy gold and brown, and it's like the most respectfully like toned down but still, I'm a fucking boss cloak. And when he settles on that thought of authoritative, the cloak doesn't change again.
Radical kind of like spend some time kind of maybe preening in the mirror, like kind of like adjusting the cloak, but he's very pleased with how it looks now.
But you have the sensation for a bonus action, you can make that cloak look like pretty much anything cloak that you want.
Okay, yeah, I think I know. Yeah. Okay.
You can add, if you want to keep that, you can add cloak of many fashions.
Yeah, I think Brannick will hold on to that, and he'll kind of like towards Fen and Galeria kind of like gesture towards the remaining cloaks, and explain like kind of what he kind of senses coming off each of them, and let them try them on
So
if they wish.
one is kind of conjuring magic, and the other one is kind of abjuring magic. Fen or Galeria, do you have any thoughts? Would you like to try on a new cloak?
Galeria would try on the conjuration cloak. So she would reach down, pick up the cloak, the conjuration cloak, and kind of like just put it around her shoulder, around her neck.
Are you wearing the mithril plate at this point? Would you have basically switched over?
Oh, I am still wearing the mithril plate.
Gotcha. So when Galeria kind of like picks up this cloak, it looks like it could be, I know Galeria is a female, but like a codpiece kind of thing. It's a tiny cloak for how massive Galeria is. But you kind of see as she like draws it back across her back, she could totally like split this cloak doing the fat guy in a little coat. And you kind of see as she like starts to like let it sink over her shoulders, and you see as like a dark black kind of mist almost starts to flow out from between the cloak and Galeria. And as this mist kind of like sinks away with the cloak's going to grow to the size of Galeria before you'll basically start to notice that just Galeria standing there, this cloak just constantly releases just a little bit of black smoke that kind of flows away from the movements of the cloak and then dissipates into the air. That is a cloak of billowing.
Oh, yeah. She got a sit.
You can use a bonus action to make it billow dramatically.
Oh yeah, she's keeping this.
So, Fen, would you like to put on the other one?
Last one for me.
So, Fen, when you put yours on and you drape it across your shoulders, it does nothing for you. It is very much magical. You have a sense that you're going to have to spend some time to fully understand what this cloak does.
Okay.
But for what it's worth, you don't get it yet, but you can add, this is the best cloak, the Cloak of Displacement.
Oh, nice.
Oh man, for a monk, yeah.
Bruh.
Yeah. So on some level, like the illusionist is quite happy to basically see these things go. He's kind of a tortured soul in knows what he's suffered and understands that he's just like a figment of his master's imagination when he was created. And it kind of makes for kind of a dreary sense of life. And this is kind of like a positive moment for the High Abjure to kind of just like bask in a little bit of the niceties of things. And I think maybe with a concept of where you guys might go for next, this is probably about where we'll kind of end things here. I don't want to jump into something with the last few moments. But basically, you guys are in the illusion tower. Do you have any other thoughts? Do you have any ideas about where you will be going next?
So I'm thinking maybe we head back towards the for now. I think what given what we've learned of that the Hall of Weightless Wonders, um Rennick's fine with not investigating that now. So he's thinking maybe we head towards the stadium. Either that, or if you guys want to stop or go to the transmutation tower since it's on the way. Good with either one of those.
Yeah, I think we were gonna start making our way back towards to finish up at the Conjuration Tower. So that sounds fun by me.
Yeah, I think you guys would still be pretty early in your day here. The play was really just that one scene. You might have spent, say, like an hour with the Abjur's illusion. So at this point, you're still, and what we went to the library before, you're still probably, say, like 3 to 4 hours after waking up. You guys are probably still before having a little bit of lunch, kind of thing.
Sounds good.
So, with the transmutation tower, were we left with the idea that, like, what kind of our last thoughts were like it was crumbling around us and we escaped, but do we have any sense of whether or not we like?
Oh, that was enchantment. I
Oh,
could
that's
put
right.
the
That's right.
riddle. I could put the riddle of the transmutation tower before you guys, so you have the week to think about it. Um, that would be perfectly fine by me if you guys want to go for that right away.
I mean, it makes sense it's on the way towards the stadium rather than going to the stadium and then going all the way back. So to me, it's probably makes sense to let's head for the transmutation tower next.
Of course, rolling a random encounter. This is like precisely kind of it. We're actually going to stop with a random encounter because I just hit one. So give me a second here and I'll describe what kind of happens. Can I have each of you roll a d4 for me, please? So, as you all approach, leaving the mist of the Tower of Illusion behind, and you start to see the transmutation tower ahead of you, but you also kind of keep in mind, like, that sky tower is almost directly behind. Those three towers are kind of in a row. So you're kind of like walking conscious of keeping the transmutation tower kind of blocking that route towards the peak of the actual sky tower. But you're also kind of like curiously trying to look and keep an eye on if you can see those gargoyles that were sitting atop the actual sky tower and kind of making your way. It doesn't dawn on you until you're at the base of the transmutation tower that there's no entrance, and you can see like 70% of the base at this point. So you kind of start to do like a first little circle around it. There's no entrance on this side either. You don't see any doors into this tower. You guys can see the symbol up above. This is clearly one of the magical towers. You've paid about the least amount of attention to this place. And this is the first time that actively trying to enter it, you're going to kind of recognize that it doesn't have doors. Let me get perception checks from you all, please. So Fen and Galeria, kind of both around the same moment, are going to notice that there seems to be almost like a sidelong strike across the side in this tower. And it kind of resembles, like, the only way that I can describe it is kind of like a meteor kind of coming down in a cross and just kind of like busting out a corner. But it's basically a hole in the wall about 20, 22 feet up above you. You could probably climb your way to it, and that's the only physical entry you can see around this place. Valine will kind of look to you all and almost like reaching out to her owl, who I still haven't looked up its name, but I totally know the name for, is going to kind of like reach her owl out a little bit. Should we head up there?
Doesn't look like there's any other interest in.
Start climbing.
Yeah, Frank's just thinking if there's a way if we could make our own door, but he's thinking through what he knows and can't think of anything that would be useful. So yeah, seems like we're climbing.
Me, the DM, is thinking, now you're thinking like a wizard.
Well, I'm thinking transmutation, right, is the essentially turning something one thing into another thing. So, assuming
Oh,
this tower is
100%. This tower doesn't confuse you in the least bit. You're like, there's no door, because any transmutation wizard worth his salt can just move the stone out of the way and walk through it.
yeah, so I was looking through my my spells. The only thing I have that could potentially
You cut out.
No, I was my when I hit my uh push to talk, it like messes up my screen. But I was thinking I could, the only thing I can think of is try to cast something that will essentially eat away some of the thing to create a door that way. But I don't have anything like shaped stone or any like that stuff that might be able to kind of more uh, like better able to make us a door.
So, as you all start to make your individual climbs, Valine is going to release her owl. It's going to kind of fly upward as she kind of hangs back for the moment. And then, no time at all, she's basically going to kind of look back to you. And as she kind of like starts to catch up to the group approaching the base, there's nothing inside. It leads to a storage closet. We should be safe to go. And as everybody basically gets like first hand on the wall of this thing, you're all going to hear inside of your heads, effectively in whatever language is most natural to you. This is where it'll be basically Common to Brennick, Elvish to Fen, Goblin for Galeria. You're going to hear, "Intruders are not permitted here. What business do you have? Leave this place." And you're going to hear like swords draw from behind you. And you'll notice that there are three of these kind of greenish teal figures who are all kind of holding this same like sword stance, with a double-handed sword kind of held out with the point towards you. Their like low hand on it is kind of back, and it's kind of like drawn back in a semi-defensive pose, but also ready to kind of like plunge it forward. And their footing kind of belies the same move, where if they needed to, they're ready to kind of like strike out at anybody who kind of faces them. And behind them, you'll see one figure who's just kind of standing there, hands crossed, and his robes kind of connect in a way that you don't actually see the hands. Just the arms of the robes kind of lead down, and this too is like kind of a greenish teal figure. And that's where we're going to pause. We'll pick up with whatever happens after this little statement next session.